Guys, should you refuse to pay your HOA bill? Should you refuse to pay the dues? The short answer is no. You have to pay it. You're legally required to pay your HOA dues. Okay? Now, we've got people in this community who have refused to pay their HOA dues. And it's not like they refuse it, come out and say, I refuse. They just ignore the bill. They ignore the bill, and they ignore the late notices and all kinds of notices that come to their house. They just ignore it. Right? They don't come to the meeting and say, hey, I'm not paying my HOA bill because of this reason. They don't. They don't call the manager and say, hey, look, I'm not going to pay my dues because I'm dissatisfied. They don't. They just ignore the bill and ignore the notices. So will they get away with that? Well, in some HOAs, they might get away with it. They might. If the board doesn't do anything, if they don't take action, then they might get away with it. And people in this community, several of them, several owners, got away with it for a long time, right? We got to a point where we were so far behind in collections, we had one whole year of income for this community. We were behind one whole year. We were missing 1 year's worth of income for the HOA because the board did nothing. They did nothing. When I got on the board, I started asking questions of the manager. They said, well, we sent letters. We sent letters to these members. Okay, great. But you know what? Some people don't care about letters. They don't care at all. Right? Now, look, if I get a late fee letter, I'm going to pay my bill. No matter what it is. If I owe, I'm going to pay. That's how I am. But some people aren't like that. Right? And several owners in this community were doing that. And we're getting away with it because the board did nothing except send more letters. You have to do more than that. Well, what do? You get lawyers. You sick lawyers on them. You get a collection agency. You sick a collection agency on them. That's what you do. They start filing court papers, right? You get the courts involved, right? And sooner or later, they will pay, right? You put a lien on their property, right? You advise them, hey, look, we're going to foreclose. We have the right to foreclose. Your dues are a legal requirement. When you bought property in this community, you knew there was an HOA. Right? You have to pay the dues. I'm sorry. Right? We will go after you with a lawyer, collection agency, and you will lose. Everyone who has done that to us has eventually paid up. We've got two real bad ones right now. One owes $3,800. The other one owes $4,500. Right? And it's just not the dues that have accumulated. It's late fee on top of late fee on top of lawyer's fee. All these fees. They should just pay as they go. When the bill comes due, pay it. Avoid all this headache. Avoid all these late fees. They've gotten the proper notices. They've gotten the proper legal notices. We gave them a chance. Call up the manager and say, hey, look, can you work with me? Can I have a payment plan? Can we waive the late fees or something? We can work with you up to a certain point. But once you get turned over to the lawyer, once you get turned over to the collection agency, their hooks are in you. And now we can't help you as the HOA board, as the HOA manager. Now we can't help you. Now you're in their claws. And they will file court papers, and they will file papers to foreclose on your property. We've got one very close to foreclosure. It's supposed to be December 2nd. That's less than a month away. And once they find out they're going to lose their property legally, they'll pay. It ain't worth $3,800 to lose their whole property. They'll pay. And it's a lot of fees on top of the dues. Why do they do this, guys? Why do they do this? And these are people that never ever show up to the meetings. I've never heard from them. I've never met them in person. They could have contacted us a long time ago and said, hey man, we're having financial problems. I don't know. I think they just don't think it's real. They don't think that anything's going to happen. They think they're going to get away with it. They're not. Now, it's not fair to the people that do pay. It's not fair to the owners that do pay, that do want their community to be cleaned up and things fixed and not to become a dump. Right? Why do these people think that they're special? Why do they think that everyone else pays but they don't? Now, if they didn't like an HOA, don't buy in an HOA community. If you never want to pay dues, don't buy in an HOA community. If you don't like the service, come talk to us at the meetings. Run for office. Right? But they never show up. They don't go to the meetings. I don't know who they are. I know they don't pay. I know their names. I know their addresses. I've never seen them in person. Never. And they haven't contacted the manager either. They're just ignoring it. We will foreclose. We are in the process of foreclosing. You know, we've contracted with a collection agency, and that's all they do. That's all they do. They get these people, they file their court papers, and they get their fees from these owners who don't pay. That's where their fees are paid. And once we turn it over to the collection agency, we can't work with them anymore. We can't put them on a payment plan. We can't waive their late fees. I mean, we have a contract with the collection agency. So, guys, you have to pay your dues, right? You have to pay your dues. That you just can't stop paying, right? I own property here too. I have to pay my dues, and guess what? I pay. But for a long time, yeah, they did get away with it. We got a year behind in dues collection because they weren't seeking lawyers on these people. Right? You have to take legal action. You have to do it. They get their warnings, they get their notices, they get their chances. But, these guys are a few years behind in dues payments. They never paid. So I'm sorry. And it's not like we're taking the house away from a little old lady. No, these are all fourplexes with landlords. These are landlords. These are owners. And I bet they want their rents on time. They want their renters to pay the rent. But when it comes to their own bills, they don't want to pay. That's not how it works, guys. That's not how it works. I don't know the mindset of some people. Why are they doing this to themselves? Why put yourselves through this stress? There's other ways to do it. You can't ignore the law. You can't ignore, so that there's consequences. Yeah, that's how it is, man. That's how it is. All right, take care. The collection agency we use is called Equity Experts. They have a channel here on YouTube, and they've been doing a good job for us. We're pretty satisfied, and it's worked out real well. So any HOAs that are having collection issues, I would recommend Equity Experts.